You got to mock it up before you fuck it up. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. We're your hosts, Calvin Timms and Dale Terry. We got him back, boys. Dale's finally back full time, so we're going to be putting out a lot more content. I've been so burnt out the last couple weeks, but we've been still continuing the content for you guys. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying that. And make sure you go and check all the videos that we've been putting out. Last week I did a breakdown of the Arizona receiving core. We talked about it a little bit in the rookie breakdown, but try to consolidate my thoughts a little bit more. Unfortunately, they signed Zay Jones like literally right after I recorded that video, so it's going to change things a little bit. I do think that Michael Wilson, though, is still an amazing buy. Maybe just not as high a ceiling as I kind of talked about in the video, but, you know, accountability, I'll own up to it. It's fine. It's fine. But that said, thank you guys for checking us out. If you're new, please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video, comment down below. Let us know your thoughts and, you know, just send us a hey, what's up, or any dynasty questions you guys might have. We love helping you guys out there. So I know that we're getting into the off season, and this is where people like to find that content. And hopefully this mock draft that we're doing for you guys today, you find it interesting. We're doing a one quarterback. So the super flex aficionados, you guys got to wait until the next one. We'll do another one probably this offseason with the super flex, but everything I've done so far is super flex. So I just want to see how it kind of goes with a one quarterback. So that said, Dale, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be back, and I've been really having that dynasty itch, and definitely with this mock draft, it's gonna get scratched a little bit, and in the meantime, I've been having some drafts, and I know a lot of people are too.
Yeah.
Have had, and I've seen a lot of interesting picks, a lot of yeah, I'll just say interesting picks, and we'll go over some of those.
Yeah, we'll get into it today, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Especially with it being one quarterback.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I've had all of my drafts except for two so far. One of them is like the only league where I can get Marvin Harrison Jr. or Caleb Williams because I have the 102, right? And there's been issues with league safe and all this stuff, and the guy, our commissioner, just keeps moving the draft date back 2 days at a time. It's like, you will be drafting soon, and then we're about 4 hours away from the draft timer 2 days later. I'm like, you guys are edging me so bad with this draft. I just want Marv, man. Just let me get Marv.
Just let me have them. Come on.
We'll see. That'll be a fun one. I'm excited. There's been a lot of trades, a lot of interesting draft picks, like you said, and people are going crazy. These rookies are absolutely nuts. There's so many. Maybe next week we'll do a dynasty buy lows because there's just so many good players I think are being disregarded, especially a wide receiver. And even in this draft, we're going to get into it probably here today, but man, I almost don't want the middle tier of receivers just because I want that big three. And then I love the guys that are going at the back of the second, early third.
Yes,
and it's just like,
I agree.
I would rather take my stab. Yeah. On any of the other positions there at the end of the first. So we'll see how it shakes out in a one quarterback, but man, I like this year's draft class a lot, and that scares me. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to be picking first just because Dale always gets number one. He's going to take Marv. And with this being one quarterback, I'm going to be taking Marv. So Dale can suck it. So I'm going to be taking Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I don't think there needs to be too much explanation on this one. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a really freaking good player. And, I don't see why you would not be taking him 101. There's nobody that I'd be taking over him in a one quarterback.
I very much agree with that. And there are some arguments with him in a super flex, I do get taking Caleb Williams over him. I get that. I know I'm a Ohio State fan. I get it. But also, Superflex is different than one quarterback, and in this format, he's a slam dunk. I honestly feel he's going to. I feel he has a very good chance of being Rookie of the Year, and it's going to be great. So I'm very excited for it. I really am. So
yeah, he's really good, man. Yeah, like I said in my breakdown last week, I think he has the potential for like 120, 1,407 which puts him in the top 10 easily for wide receivers this year. So, all right, you're on the clock. Are you taking Neighbors or who are you feeling at 2 here?
I will start by saying that I saw on X or Twitter, whatever it's called, whoever cares, whatever it's called, But
Twix, that's what we're gonna call it.
Yeah, we're gonna call it that. I saw that somebody took Xavier Worthy here in a 1 quarterback at 102.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm definitely not doing that. And I'm gonna go with the other layup that I feel in Malik Neighbors. I think he's gonna be fantastic for Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones will finally have a 1,000-yard receiver, and it's gonna be fantastic for him. At least for Neighbors. I don't know about the Giants as a whole, and I don't really care. But
right.
They finally have a wide receiver that's competent and not just. I mean, I love Paris Campbell. Don't get me wrong, but he's not.
He's not even there anymore. He's on the the Eagles now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. So I mean, among 12 other receivers, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm going with Neighbors.
Great pick. And like you said, it's a talent over situation, right? Because he's a very good player. I think that he's going to be very good once they get a quarterback. Even if they go to Drew Lock, I think that him and Drew Lock could really cook in this offense. At least for fantasy, they might not win a lot of games, but I think it's going to be pretty fun. So we're going to be alternating picks here. And now I am going to be going, it's pretty chalk for the first 3, and it'll get really interesting here at 4, but I am going Rome Odunze, last wide receiver in that premium 3, in my opinion. I'm not concerned. Everyone's talking about him being comparing him to JSN, right? Oh, he's just Jackson Smith and Jigba. But he's not, right? Because the situations are completely different. Rookie quarterback, they're already going through rookie minicamp.
They're also a different player.
Yeah, they do. They play different roles in the offense.
Yes,
I agree, 100%.
Exactly. So it's I understand why people are comparing it because they're the third wide receiver, but that's really where that ends.
I know, right? That's literally the only connections that they have. So, very good player, and this is Dynasty, guys. Like, just get a good player. So, Rome Odunze at 103 here. Who are you taking at 4? This is where it gets interesting.
If it was tight end premium, I would smash Brock Bowers here.
Okay.
But I think I'm gonna go with Caleb Williams. I think it's just. I think he is going to be very solid. I don't think he's going to be. I don't feel he's going to be a Patrick Mahomesian quarterback. I feel he's going to be. I still think he's going to be solid. He's going to be a back end quarterback 1 for a decade. I feel.
Right.
I feel. I don't think he's going to be, anything crazy, but he's going to be very solid, and that's really what you're going to need. And I feel he's a safer bet than Brock Bowers here. And because I don't know what's going to happen in Vegas, nobody does. And with Minshew and AOC there, in the quarterback room, it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Penix to the Falcons selection just screwed the Raiders and changed their plans completely. Like, everyone says they were in on him, they were in on Jaden Daniels, and that was never going to happen. But it's just it is crazy to me that they're going to be interesting.
Well, and then I also saw some reports where they were between Bowers and Taron Arnold. And then they flipped a coin, and it was Brock Bowers.
I did see that.
Which I did see after that their head coach Antonio Pierce denied that, but it's hard saying with the Raiders organization that what's true and what's not. But
Tom Telesco came over, from the Chargers after he got fired last year. I do like Tom Telesco as a GM, and I think that he just values good players. So, but it was a weird pick still. Them in the Falcons. I just think that the Falcons threw them off and they didn't know what to do. So that's and then Nick's going right before him too. That some people were on it, but was it just talk, whatever. So I think they just didn't really know what to do at that point. So they kind of panicked. But I think that, and this is where I'll take Brock Bowers here at 5. I'm not that concerned. I think he's a good player, and I'm drafting good players. You can get into the receivers here, and again, I said it kind of at the top, but after these elite three, I have
Yeah,
questions
it's
about
tough. It's
every
tough.
single one
All
of
all
them.
of these guys. I know. I
Xavier
agree.
Worthy, I mean, he's tiny, guys. Like he's the fastest man alive, but he's extremely tiny. Lad
And then and
McConkey,
then
I
and
like
then there's
Lad.
Brian Thomas as well, and
Well, yeah, and it's like
Keon
Lad
Cole. Yeah.
McConkey, I like him, but can he ever get the volume in a Jim Harbaugh offense to sustain fantasy relevance or not? Brian Thomas, he's got Gabe Davis, and people are saying, "Oh, Gabe Davis is nothing." They paid him a lot of money to come over here. They're paying him a lot more than they're paying Brian Thomas, and they play like identical roles. So I don't know how that's even going to work out on the field. Like it's such a I just did not understand this signing when you had other options available. Keon Coleman, production in college, it's just so many of these guys I have question marks about. So give me Brock Bowers because I do not have any questions about his talent on the field.
Yeah, I think that's a home run pick, and I mean, I think in one quarterback that uh, Caleb and Brock Bowers are kind of, I don't want to say they're interchangeable, but they're, I could have went either way on it.
A lot of
But
people say they're
I've
reaches though in a one quarterback, and that's where I hear it, but
I hear it too, but I also know they're good players and they're in onesie positions.
yeah, exactly. I'm
So like
willing to.
I get, yeah. I'm cool with it, at least for these guys, because these guys are, I don't like using the word generational, but they're very, very good prospects.
Exactly. And the one
So
thing too, guys, like to think about with these two players, you go back and everyone's going to say, well, look at the Pitts year, right? Oh, Kyle Pitts, a lot of people took him super high over Javonte Williams. How's that working out? Over Jalen Waddle. Now you have the argument there. But if Pitts hits this year, like we all kind of expect him to do, man, nobody's going to be talking about it like it was a crazy pick anymore, right? I just think that it was a little bit of a bumpy road. And again, Bowers with Gardner Minshew, there's some prospects there for fantasy. So this is where it gets really interesting. Now, who are you
yeah,
taking at
I'm in
6?
a really horrible spot, and I think Calvin wanted to do that on purpose. I
Let's
really
go.
think he did.
I know who I would take here,
Um,
but
well, I'm glad you know. Because I'm kind of like I like Xavier Worthy, but I'm not on the choo choo train that a lot of people are.
sure.
You know, I do like Lad. I like Lad better than Brian Thomas. I'm kind of off Brian Thomas right now. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Trevor Lawrence, and I think he's pretty mid in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And I don't like taking. I don't really like having receivers on mid quarterback with mid quarterbacks personally. But
Yep, I hear you.
um, Keon Coleman scares me to death. Uh, he
Right.
does. He really does. So I'm between like Lad and Jonathan Brooks slash Trey Benson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's probably that's kind of the three players that you're probably thinking of probably. So we'll think of this quickly. I really love Trey Benson. He's more of a long term, and I kind of feel if I'm at the 1-6, I want somebody that's going to get me into the playoffs. And
Right.
I don't know if Trey Benson's going to do that year one
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. I can see him in the future being a lot better than some of these guys that I talked about.
Right.
Um, so I think I'm going to take the first running back off the board, and Jonathan Brooks is who I'm going to go.
See, and this is where we differ a little bit as well because I see Jonathan Brooks as more of the long-term guy personally, but
That's fair.
I hear everyone's argument for it, but it's just to me it's crazy because Carolina still has and none of these guys are all Jags. Don't get me wrong. Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, they
Yep.
signed Rashad Penny. It's just Jags. I'm not saying that they're amazing players, but it's just an extremely crowded backfield, and he's coming
It
off an
is.
ACL tear, right?
Yeah,
I just don't
and
think he's going to have a ton of volume in year one. Long term, I think he's fine, but people use that argument a lot to say, "Oh, I'm going to take Jonathan Brooks over Trey Benson because he's going to be better year one." I think they're both going to be mediocre year one. Like that's the problem.
it's fair.
And then I like Trey
That's
Benson
fair.
more long term. So
Yeah.
But I see everyone's argument,
Yeah,
but that's just where
and
I
that's fair, and yeah, and I definitely hear that, and I think I feel it's kind of splitting hairs.
right,
I think that Brooks is going to be Bryce Young's best friend in this
right,
offense
right.
because yes, they made strides on the offensive side, and they took a lot of offensive players and signed a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guys in free agency, but it takes time for those guys to mend and to become a solid unit.
Right.
And I can see him getting a ton of dump offs and doing kind of his magic where I don't really foresee Trey Benson doing. I mean, I can see him doing some of that because that is what Kyler likes to do. But I also know that he has a big weapon on the outside that he's
Yep.
gonna
Yep.
pepper. So,
Yep. I can
so
see that.
that I mean, it's kind of splitting hairs with me, and like I feel that Brooks has, in my opinion, has a little bit more upside year one compared to
Mm-hmm.
Benson year one.
Fair enough, and that's where I'll make it easy here, and I'll just take Trey Benson at
Fair
7
enough. I
because
like it.
I when you look at the next running backs that are on the board, right? You're talking Blake Corum
Yep.
or Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, these other guys, and it's like I
I'm
like
not in
them,
love with any of those. Yeah,
but
I'm
these
not in
two are
love
the
with
only
any of them.
two that you really want to invest in long term. So again, we get to the receivers, and I think that from basically Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall, you have like 7 or 8 guys right here that I'm perfectly fine taking all of them, and there's only 2 running backs. So give me those guys,
Yes,
just let
I
me lock
agree.
them up, and then you can go and get your receivers with the next few picks. So
Yes,
uh,
yeah, and I definitely do agree with that. Is that like it feels like all these wide receivers are in their own tier right now.
right. Very
Unfortunately,
deep
so.
tier, which is great, but it's just
It is, it is,
like
it is, it is, but they're all very volatile at
I
the same
know.
time.
You could tell me any of these guys in a year's time will be the rookie wide receiver number 1, and I will say, yeah, I believe it. Like literally any of
Yeah,
these guys, I have no idea who's going to be the guy. I could see the path for all of them. So it's almost like the path. It's almost where I don't want any of them because I'll take whichever one falls the furthest. Like that's just kind of how I'm treating these mid tier wide receivers here.
yeah, and I'm not feeling great again. Like you got me in a hard spot at 1-6 and 1-8. You
It's
know,
not bad. Like I don't feel bad
it's
here,
it's
but
not, and like I like. I mean, I know it's in years past we have to. Well, we've learned that with these wide receivers that have had first round draft value that is very important and that we should value that.
right.
And I unfortunately a lot
Hmm.
these group of wide receivers got taken very, very close to each other and have
Hmm.
very similar values,
Yep. Yep.
in draft capital. So,
So who you
you
taking at
know,
8 then?
well, uh
Put
Well, I'll talk through it like I did the last time. So, I guess it's the top of the board. You see Xavier Worthy. Patrick Mahomes is gonna spray it all over the field. So I'm kind of I'm a little worried about him and how he's gonna get valued.
hmm.
And then with the Rashee Rice situation, that's a little weird right now. We don't know what's going on with that. So, you can take that with a grain of salt. I really do like Lad, and I
Hmm.
think he's gonna be Justin Herbert's best friend. I'm scared of Brian Thomas. Keon Coleman scares me to death, but he could also be the number one for Josh Allen, which
Yep.
is great. Um, that's really, and then there's Ricky Pearsall, which
Hmm. He's more of a
I'm not.
long term. I kind of view him as a
Yes,
long term, like year 2 kind of
yes,
guy. He's the guy that I
yes,
want to not draft and then target this offseason,
yes.
this
I agree
upcoming
with
offseason.
that. I very much agree with that. So I think here I'm between Ladd and Keon Coleman.
Okay.
That's kind of who I'm between, and I have a
Just
feeling
take
that
Lad.
you
Just take him.
I'm gonna take Ladd because I know you
Okay.
really want Keon Coleman here.
No, I
Yeah,
don't actually. I don't want
no,
Keon
no,
here,
no.
but
I'm happy to take Ladd here. I think he's gonna get the, Keenan Allen treatment, I guess, in a way.
sure.
And get a lot of targets and a
Yeah.
lot of meaningful targets because he's gonna be in the slot. He's gonna be doing a lot of different things that he did really well in Georgia. So, and I think with them getting another bookend tackle, that's going
Hmm.
to really that's going to help Justin Herbert just be able to survive the season and to be a relevant quarterback.
Yep.
I get people are scared of Harbaugh and Greg Roman being there, but they still are going to throw the ball and
Yeah,
they're
they're
going to
gonna
throw it
have
well.
at
Yeah,
least
yeah,
450 attempts or 500 or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's got to go somewhere.
I definitely don't see Herbert as Lamar Jackson. You know,
Right.
they're similar somewhat, but very very different, very
Yeah.
different. So
Right.
so
Um,
yeah. So I feel really good with taking that.
Yeah, and at 1-9, I'm just going to take Brian Thomas Jr. I just think, again, first round pick. He was the fourth wide receiver off the board. I think you
Yep.
got to respect the pick a little bit. I do like the talent a lot, but I just don't know how the usage is going to be there. But again, I'm drafting the talent here over the opportunity. In a year's time, Christian Kirk, I think, is a free agent, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right.
So they could always just rock with Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. next year. You got two bigger body guys. Maybe they transition to a rookie slot guy next year. Who knows? But yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Gabe Davis could get injured. You never know. So give me the talent of Brian Thomas Jr. Hopefully the situation works itself out, and I'll just take the good player here and put you on
Yeah.
the clock here at 10.
I get that. So I'm thinking either Keon Coleman or I'm thinking quarterback here, which with at Jaden Daniels. So
Hmm.
I think this is kind of about the time where you start to think about a quarterback. Maybe
Sure.
at the 109 to tail end at 112. Um, I know I'm gonna say this again. Keon Coleman scares the living crap out of me. I know he's talented, but I don't know,
If
man.
he ends up being the number one though, like his
I know.
value is gonna.
I know. And like I don't know if I mean I guess if you pick at 110 that you can really risk that and say, "Hey, I'm
Right.
going to take Keon Coleman," and feel really good about it because, I almost made the finals and if he really hits, I'm feeling really good.
Right.
Um
And obviously this is kind of team dependent, right?
it is.
If
It's
you
very team dependent.
clearly if you're the 110, you are you made a run in the playoffs.
Yes.
You lost to one of the finalists, which there's no shame in that, obviously, but your team is pretty solid all around, right? So maybe you need that quarterback, and that's where you go Jane Daniels. Maybe you really need the receiver, and that's where you go Keon Coleman. But yeah, I don't think there's any shame in going Jaden Daniels with the end of the first. I do think that, the upside on someone like a Keon Coleman in a one quarterback
Is
seems a
is
little
is
bit
is is
more
greater. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah. And one quarterback I think that's what I'm going to go with is Keon Coleman here.
fair enough.
I really like Jane Daniels, but I don't really foresee him as a high end quarterback for very long, in my
Right. And
opinion.
that's where it does scare me. Like,
Yeah,
again, you get out of those top five guys, six guys, and it's like, it's, I love all these players. I love them so much,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
just
Yeah,
scares
yeah.
me
Yes, it's
to
yeah, it's,
death.
it's a very talented group, but it's a very volatile group because
Yep.
they've shown flashes, but they also could suck
Yeah, exactly.
immensely.
Exactly. Now, I will take Jaden Daniels here at 111, and the main
I like
reason
it.
why, like, I understand the fears with him, but the reason why I think he'll succeed for fantasy football at least is because of Cliff Kingsbury. We saw what he was able to do, and Cliff wasn't a good head coach, but I do think that his offense was underrated by a lot of people just because I don't know. It just seemed like he was overmatched as a head coach, right? I don't think he was able to manage everything to the best, but I do think that he was able to scheme it up for fantasy production, and that's why I like Brian Thomas Jr. or not Brian Robinson. That I think that they're going to just be able to run the ball all over the field. They're going to utilize the rushing potential for Jane Daniels, and at the 111, I think it's just a massive steal. So I love being able to get him that late. In a one, even if it is one quarterback, I do think that there's that rushing floor that will keep him fantasy relevant.
Now, I almost want to take one of your guys here and somebody that probably shouldn't go off the board this early, but
Jermaine.
I know. I'm thinking about it. I really do like Jermaine Burton. I
I know
think
he's
he's
starting to
going
pop
to.
too in rookie
I
camps.
know,
I'm like,
and I'm not.
"Ugh, dude,
I know,
I want to
I
keep his
know. I'm like,
value as
please
low as
stop.
possible for as long
Yeah,
as possible.
and I've also been seeing a lot of analysts like, well, I don't want to say analysts, I should say some fantasy football people saying,
Yeah.
like they don't draft this guy, like his value is way too high, stuff like
In the
that. But
third, what are we doing here?
well,
What?
well, 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 where they've been saying he's creeping up in at the end of the second round
Oh
and stuff like
no.
that.
You got to
I
draft
know.
Troy Franklin over him, guys. Come on, what are we
I know.
doing?
So,
Troy
yeah,
Franklin, who fell
I mean,
past
so
everybody 3 times,
so here I am thinking about. I mean, Xavier Worthy's is interesting, but again, I don't know. Like, I really like him. I think he's a good prospect. I think
Hmm.
he's a good wide receiver. I really like him. Ricky Pearsall, I have no idea what's going to happen with him.
I keep
Zero
forgetting he was a
idea.
first round.
Yes, he was a first
Like,
round pick, and
he's,
that's wild.
I
It's
know,
wild.
he's gonna
So
be interesting.
and I don't want to forget that, and like I love CJ Stroud, and if like CJ knows ball, in my
Yes,
opinion, and like he vouched for this guy, so like I see it, I get it. So, but he's like the fifth fiddle in this offense, and I don't really want any part of that right now.
sure. So who are you taking here?
Um, so I'm taking a lot of potential here. Screw it. I'm gonna go Jermaine Burton.
All right,
I'm gonna be all aboard the hype train here.
all right, all
I
right.
don't really like any of the running backs here. I don't like any of the quarterbacks in a one quarterback league right now either. So,
Planting your
you
flag, I
know,
like it. I
yeah,
and again, I
I'm
like Jermaine Burton over ended up taking, but the whole thing with Burton is just that you don't have to take him that high. That's the
no, you
one
don't.
upside. So
Yep.
Jermaine Burton here, I like it. I do not deny it. And I'll take
And
Xavier. Go ahead.
and I'm gonna say this here first. I was on Jermaine Burton before Calvin was, before he takes my guy.
No, no.
I mean, yeah, I was.
Dude,
I
I've
brought
been
him
in
up
on
way
like all
before.
these receivers. If you go back,
I've
I
I've
liked your.
I've
I
I've
had him above you at one
I've
point in time, and then I
well,
dropped him.
and you still do. I'm planting my flag here,
No,
Calvin.
I had him higher, and then I dropped him because I liked other guys more, and then now I'm back on him. It's been a
hmm
roller coaster, dude. I bet. Like I remember
Whatever
at
you gotta
one
tell
point,
yourself, Calvin.
dude. I would remember at one point I was so high on Keon Coleman. I had him as my like wide receiver 5, and then
Yeah,
I ended up dropping him to like wide receiver. I don't know, like 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. And then I'm back in. I'm back in. He's like back to
back
6,
in,
and I'm
baby.
like, dude, I'm just these again. It's
All
because I
over, all
love
over.
all these guys, and I have no
Yeah,
idea how to value them. That they're just up and down and up and down. So I'll take and all right. So we're through round 1. We'll try and pick up the pace a little bit here through this second round, just because we've kind of talked about all these guys now at this point. So I'll take Xavier Worthy again, first round pick, paired with Patrick Mahomes, probably the best quarterback in the NFL. If he hits, again, I just think that the value is too high to pass up at this
yeah.
point. And again, I'm not touching the running backs just yet or
I'm not
another
either.
quarterback for a while.
I very much agree with that, and that's why I'm going with Ricky Pearsall.
Vicky Pierce. Yep,
Yep.
yep, I get it. I definitely get it. Again, the nice thing with Ricky Pearsall too is we have no idea if they're going to keep Deebo Samuel. Everyone's kind of talking about Deebo as being the odd man out at this point in time,
That's
and I
what.
get
Yeah,
it. Like
I've been hearing that too.
Deebo's been banged up a lot, and I like Deebo a lot. I've always been. I'm still bitter that the Patriots didn't draft Deebo coming out of
Still.
college. Like we had the
Yep.
opportunity, and we took N'Keal Harry over Deebo Samuel. Did not work out well for us because N'Keal Harry sucked, and I knew he sucked, and I wanted Deebo, and Deebo's been good. Also been banged up a lot. I could see them moving on from him. They're talking about post June 1 trade candidate where they save like 25 million or something. They save a ton next year as well, and that they're really cap strapped next year. They need to figure something out with Brandon Ayuk. They could backload his deal so that they could create a little bit of flexibility in that if they were to do that. And when you look at Brock Purdy and his skill set, Pearsall and Ayuk are a much more natural fit for him specifically.
Yep.
Whereas Debo and Ayuk were a better fit for someone like Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Where it's more of a run, or even a Trey Lance, right? Where
Yep.
a little bit more of a, for Jimmy was don't let him mess it up. So take the ball out of his hands. For Trey, it's utilize the run game a little bit more in different ways and everything like that. So I do think that Debo's kind of lived past his expiration there in in San Francisco. Not that they don't want to keep him, but I just think it's a money financial.
I agree with all of that.
So yeah, Pearsall, he could be the number 2 this year. So I
But
love this pick. Again, he's someone that I'm letting other people draft, and hopefully they freak out and I can get him on the cheap. All right, so here at this point, now this is where it gets interesting because I haven't done any one quarterbacks yet, and who do I want at 2-3? Again, we've talked about a lot of these guys, and I think at this point, I'm going to take Xavier Legette. Again, first round pick. If he hits, dude's going to be nuts. Like, the upside is there.
it is.
I do think that there's guys here that have a higher floor, and I'd probably be a chicken in an actual draft and take someone like a Roman Wilson, Jalen Polk, one of these guys. But the upside with Xavier Legette is just so tantalizing to
I
pass
do
up,
get it.
right?
Yep, I get it.
You pair him with Bryce Young, who, big wide receiver, small quarterback, match made in heaven. You need that for your guy. DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson back in Seattle, right? You get the smaller guy with the big body guy, and they can see him down the field. So I like it, and I'm willing to take Xavier Legette here at 2-3 and see if it works out.
Well, I'm gonna go with a small guy here in Blake Corum.
Blake
I
Corum,
think,
yeah, fair
yeah,
enough.
I'm not a Michigan guy, but I do know that there's value in Blake Corum. He is Kyron Williams' backup and
Mm,
could very well be the starter by the end of the season. So, he's pretty durable overall.
yeah,
But I mean,
thick, thick boy,
I'm
fire hydrant.
yeah, yeah, and the college game is a lot different than the NFL.
Sure.
Like when in regards to injuries and stuff like that. So, but I think he's pretty dependable. I think it's odd that he ended up in LA, not with the team we thought, but
I
that's beside the
know.
point.
The opposite one.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I think he's gonna be pretty solid, and I think they're gonna use him quite a bit more than what we think.
Yeah.
And he's probably gonna spell Kyron to keep Kyron healthy throughout the
Oh,
year.
for sure. I do think that people are underrating what his role. Like Kyron Williams cannot have an 80% rush
No,
share
he
again.
he, he
He
really
just
can't.
he
He really
can't
can't.
do it. His body's not built for it. So
Well, and it didn't really help that the Rams didn't have the depth that they had, at
mhm.
running back, with Ronnie Rivers. I mean, they had I was about to say Cam Akers, but that was the year before.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember who they had as the
it
as
was it
the
was a it was a bunch of different people, and it did
right.
not work out.
Yeah, and that's
So
where, you yeah, it's just Zach Evans was someone that never even got the field. Boston Scott, he's on the roster now. Like it's just it's Kyron and him. So I like
yeah,
it. I do think that there's some definite potential there. So 2-5, I am going to take a guy with a little bit higher floor, like I talked about. I'm going to take Roman Wilson here. I love the opportunity in Pitt. I'm also terrified of him and Justin Fields because I just don't know if Fields can feed him from a fantasy perspective. But him and
that's
Russ, I
fair.
think, are going Wilson to Wilson, R Wilson to R Wilson. They're gonna make it work. So I'm willing to take Roman Wilson here. Again, I loved Roman Wilson, and I think my final wide receiver rankings, I had him very high. Gets day 2 draft capital as well. He's just a quarterback's best friend, man, and that's again, Pittsburgh has an amazing track record of drafting receivers. I like Roman Wilson, so for me, this is just a match made in heaven. And again, he's in a super flex, a 3rd round pick, so I think it's very sexy here to get him in the mid second in a one quarterback.
I agree. I agree. I'll be very honest. I've never been in a one quarterback league. I've usually always done super flex. So all
Ooh,
this is a
loser.
little. I'm taking the L. I would love to be in one quarterback leagues to see what it's like. I know the thought process is a lot different.
Yes, it is,
It's
and
much
I'm
different.
someone that has been in one, and we're finally transitioning to Superflex next year. So I will no longer be in one after this, but it is very different. So
Right.
you have to value, like it's kind of boring. The whole thing, all you guys that like one quarterback, it's fine. I'm not knocking you. For me, it's just boring because like all your emphasis is just wide receivers and running backs, and trading
It
sucks in
is.
a one quarterback because you can't really trade quarterbacks for anything, and the elite guys you just hoard them, and
Yeah, and you just
um,
keep them forever.
tight ends are they're the elite ones again, they're super valuable, but the other ones are not. So it's just like every trade is just this running back for this receiver, or this receiver for
Yeah,
this running back, or these two receivers for this running back and receiver. Like it's very monotone in the trading, and that for me that's boring. I like Superflex. I like tight end premium where every position has a lot more value
yeah.
uniformly across the board. But not saying anything's wrong. There's still people that play standard, guys. So you could
That
be much
that's
worse.
that's the wild wild west of fantasy football. There, I don't quite know how those sickos do it, but there
Yeah.
there there are some out there, and I applaud you for your service.
Yeah.
So
All right,
so
where are you leaning here at 2-6?
all right, at 2-6, I am terrified of AD Mitchell and Anthony Richardson together. I think that's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I don't
that's
like it for
about a nice.
fantasy, but I like it for real
I don't.
football.
Yeah,
I
yeah. In
continue
real
to say
life,
that, but
yes, and and that's how I feel about Troy Franklin and Bo Nix too. I think it's
yeah,
there is a value to me at least for having some continuity with
hmm,
a college teammate, stuff like that. Like that is really important.
yep.
But I think I'm gonna go Drake May here.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I kind of I feel this is around a time where like another quarterback's taken. Kind of around the maybe
Yeah,
2-6 to
yeah.
209. I feel that's a
Mhm.
fair. I feel that's a fair assessment.
Especially
You know,
for
you
someone that's
know.
like Drake May, who was the number 3 pick in the draft,
Yes,
right? So,
yes, exactly.
yep, I get it. I definitely get it. Now, if you would have taken Michael Penix, then we would have. I would have had questions, but
I thought about it. Don't worry, but
all right, 2-7 here. Now this is where again it gets interesting. I'm actually gonna take at this point again in the second round of one quarterbacks. This is where you're trying to just kind of get non-bust, right? And luckily, again, this is a good draft class for that. Where I think you're gonna have quite a few hits later on. But the guy I'm gonna take here was a second round pick, and that's gonna be Ben Sennett with
I
the
knew you're gonna
Commanders.
with the Commanders. I knew you're
Yep,
gonna take him.
and it's just again, it's a onesie position, but look at Sam Laporta. I took Sam Laporta at 2-5 in my one quarterback league last year. It paid off
Perfect.
extremely well,
Yes.
right? When you had Dalton Kincaid going almost an entire round earlier. Again, you got the same situation here with Bowers. I think Ben Sennett is just going to be a good player, and it's a position of need. Again, it's Jaden Daniels, so can he feed him the ball enough to be fantasy relevant? I don't know. You had Josh Allen feeding or Jared Goff feeding Sam Laporta, Josh Allen feeding Dalton Kincaid. Jaden Daniels is a rookie. He's got Terry McLaurin. He's got uh oh Jahan Dotson, and then it's open. It's definitely open for somebody there. So I like Ben
Yeah,
Sennett here, and I would be willing to take him in 2-7 and one quarterback.
I like it. I like it. Well, I'm gonna go with a guy I really liked pre-draft. He weighed pretty light.
Mm.
His combine was atrocious.
Troy
Um,
Franklin, just say the
Troy
name.
Franklin,
Just say
Troy
the name.
Franklin. I really like Troy Franklin. I liked what I saw on tape.
Loser.
Um, I know he went to Oregon, and Oregon's tape can be deceiving. It
Yeah.
can be.
Yes.
I get that. Like I've watched enough college football to know. So,
Using offense.
but yeah, but I'm really excited about him and what Bo Nix can do. I think Bo Nix is going to be better than what people think he will be, in my
Yep.
opinion.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
you,
I
you know,
love Bo
you know,
Nix.
you know, I
Love
like Bo
Ben
Nix,
Simmons.
and I think he's a kind of quarterback Sean Payton really likes,
Yeah, and he's
and
mobile, dude. He is
yeah, and he's
his
mobile.
mobility is underrated. Like,
It
especially for
very much is.
fantasy, you know, we'll see if he gets drafted here today or not. But like, I do think he has a floor of like 450 yards
I think that's fair.
maybe ceiling,
Yeah.
maybe that's a better word. But like around 500 rushing yards, I would not be shocked if Bo Nix is around that because I just do think he's mobile. Sean Payton has already talked about his mobility in press conferences. You know, it's one in the Sean Payton way of talking about things where it's enigma wrapped in shadows and mystery and the fact that he's already kind of mentioned it though, it does stand out to me. So I like it a lot for Bo Nix. But yeah, Troy Franklin again, he's got the college synergy with Bo Nix, and if he can come up together with Nix and he can do what Peyton wants him to do, it could be a steal for sure.
Absolutely.
I like to clown on him a little bit, but
I know
I just never was in love with him the same way. And then when the NFL dropped him, I was like, I felt so vindicated, so justified. Like, yeah,
Right.
Troy Franklin, you're not as good as everyone else because you suck.
Well,
But
I also feel there's a lot of good receivers in this draft.
that is also true.
So
That is true.
so that didn't
But
help.
you look at
But
though,
I
you do
know.
look though, how many people went ahead of him? It was a little
Concerning.
surprising. So
I agree.
all right, so 2-9 here. I'm gonna take Jalen Polk. Second round pick. I like Jalen Polk. Again, I liked all these guys at some point in time to various degrees, but again, you have this is the same kind of argument that we had with Rome Odunze. I get it that the New England offense kind of sucks, but they brought in like they can't just fix this all in 1 year, guys. It's not going to happen. Jalen Polk to me isn't really a number 1 wide receiver, but I do think he's a solid 2 in an offense. And everyone's saying, well, Javon Baker's the 1. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think next year we're going to be bad and we're going to be in the top half, the top 10 of next year's real NFL draft. And they're going to be able to get a Luther Burden or one of these other top tier names from college. And they're going to get their number 1 in the top 10 next year. And all of a sudden, Jalen Polk, he doesn't have to be the 1 anymore. And he's already got the chemistry with Drake May. Like, I do think that he has the potential to be a solid wide receiver 2 for this offense. So again, you can't fix it. Rome was not built in a day, guys. Jalen Polk is a good player. He has good draft capital. And I think that he has a path to sustained long-term fantasy success.
Yeah. No, I like that, and I don't like the Patriots, and I want them to suffer as much as humanly possible. And I'm here for it. But I do think Jalen Polk is a good wide receiver.
So who are you taking here at 210? This is where it gets real
at
interesting
210.
though.
At 210, I thought about AD Mitchell, but I don't think again like what you said earlier, that he's going to be a better real life player than a fantasy player.
The upside is real though. Like if he
It
replaces
is.
Josh Downs, that's what scares me because it all depends how the team feels about Josh Downs. I don't know, but if he's the 2, all of a sudden he's way more attractive.
So I really like Malachi Corley.
Ooh, not see you going there.
And
Interesting.
yes. I don't really like either running back that's up here with Jalen Wright and Marshawn Lloyd. It's a very crowded backfield. I think Corley could emerge as the wide receiver 2 with Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
And he's already building a chemistry with him, and as we know with Rodgers, that's very important. I could see him having the Randall Cobb role, in the old Green Bay days, back a decade or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can see him doing that while Garrett Wilson's just, balling out over there on the edge. So,
definitely.
I can honestly see that. And I think if you're at the 210 here, like you're kind of swinging for the fences anyways. So, like you might as well try to take a big swing with him. And I think he could be the guy.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where, again, swing for the fences. I'm going to take Jalen Wright here. I get it, the argument that it's a crowded backfield in Miami, but you look at it and it's really not that crowded. You've got Devon Achane, you've got 34-year-old Raheem Mostert, and you've got Jeff Wilson. Like, it's not really that crowded. I think that time is undefeated Raheem Mostert's time is coming. He will. Oh, sorry,
It is.
33. He'll be 33 this year, not
Come on,
34.
man.
My bad. My bad.
He
But
is ageless. He is eternal.
no, he's gonna
Yeah,
eventually fall off. And the fact that he had
he will.
17 rushing touchdowns last year is just absolutely, or 18, sorry, is just absolutely nuts. And I think Jalen Wright, he's very explosive. That was the thing I wrote down when I was watching him was just explosive. This dude fits Mike McDaniel so well, and he is the perfect Raheem Mostert replacement, in my opinion. And you pair him with Devin Achan, whatever the hell his name is. I do think that these guys could be a 1A, 1B because
I love that. Yeah, no, I agree.
Achan cannot handle that big of a workload. We saw that last year, right? He's just never going to be a 20 carry type of guy, but he's going to have 10 to 15, let's say 13 on average. Well, they want to run the ball a lot down there in Miami, and I think that Jalen Wright can have a very big share. He's explosive enough with that system. For me, it's just a match made in heaven. If it was a little bit less crowded, I would probably be taking him over like Drake May or Ben Sennett. But yeah, it's just a little bit more. So I like the upside of those guys more. But yeah, that's my thoughts here.
Yeah, no, I like that. So, again here, I feel at this point I kind of feel like after like the midway through the second round in whatever draft you're in, like you're kind of just going for upside.
Yep. Yep. Just
I
don't let
don't.
the pick bust. It's like the whole goal.
Yes, yeah. So I really like Audric Estime. That's who I'm
Interesting.
gonna go with.
Okay.
I think Sean Payton has a certain types of guys that he likes,
Hmm.
and I think Estime fits that.
Sure.
He's a downhill runner. He's not the fastest guy, but he's gonna run you over,
Right.
and that's what they really need. And I think they're going to get off Javonte Williams. I don't think he's has much or a long future for uh, Denver there. So it's going to be I think McLaughlin. I think is the guy's name.
Yeah.
So
The
in
Liam.
my opinion, yeah, it's going to be him and Estime, and I think Estime is going to be the goal line back, and he's going to score some touchdowns this year. He might catch a pass or two.
Sure.
So I'm kind of going with that. I also love Bucky Irving, but he's behind Rashad White and
Yeah.
I think and Sean and the ghost of Sean Tucker. Um,
No,
yeah,
Estimate is a good pick. I personally, I still believe in Javante, but I don't think it's a bad pick at all by you because even if Javante is really good this year, he will be a free agent and
yeah,
they're not going to sign him to a long-term contract. It's just not going to happen. So he will be a free agent and he'll be going somewhere else. So I do think that that he can have a very productive year this year, but I do think in the long term there's some opportunity here for sure. So not a bad pick, and I like to estimate a lot more pre pre-draft NFL draft
draft, yeah,
than he fell a little bit further than I expected, but
yeah.
again the upside is definitely there. 3-1. I'm kind of split here. I know it's one quarterback, but JJ McCarthy is probably who I'd take here over Adonai
I
Mitchell.
I
Um,
I I, I definitely get that. I thought about taking him at
Yeah, the
the end
upside's
of the
there.
second. Yeah,
He's mobile, man, and it's
yep,
Kevin O'Connell. I think that they can. You're pairing him with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and potentially T.J. Hawkinson when he gets healthy. It's a very explosive offense. So J.J. McCarthy lucked himself into a very good situation. I don't love his talent necessarily compared to some of the other guys, but situation is very, very good. And again,
very
you just
good.
want these picks to not bust. And I think that he's a safe player. I don't know if he has the ceiling that everyone kind of believes he has, but I think he's pretty safe here. And I would take him here at
Right. I'm kind of between a couple guys. I mean,
sure.
again, 80 Mitchell's there, so that
At some
kind of
point,
feels
he's
like
going
an
to be too
easy
hard to
one.
pass up.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm between him and Jalen McMillan. For the Bucks.
Okay.
I think he's gonna slot himself into the wide receiver three potentially.
Yep.
If they don't move off of Godwin potentially, which I don't think they're gonna do at this point. Um, but I do like that Baker's his quarterback, and Baker can make a lot of guys somewhat relevant. So,
Sure.
but I think here I'm just going to go ahead and take AD Mitchell. I think it's time for him to get off the board. He's a solid. He's solid, and just like what you said, he could very well slot himself into the wide receiver 2 role.
Right.
And be really good. I'm not in love with his college tape. I get the all the athletic measurements are there. All of that's there,
Mm-hmm.
but he has to put it all together.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And now this is where maybe this pick will be a little surprising. I'm not a big Marshawn Lloyd fan. I know people love this. I don't get it personally. Like I don't see the fall off that everyone else kind of sees with Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to be very good in this system. And Marshawn Lloyd, like he's going to be the number 3. I get AJ Dillon's not that good, but I do think he's going to be better than Marshawn Lloyd, and he's old, man. He's 23 years old already. I don't really want to take that in, even in the 3rd round. Like I'm going to take your guy. I'm going to take Bucky Irvin here because
Like it.
he's only got Rachaad White, and people were down on Rachaad White last year anyway. So, if for whatever reason the coaching staff is already hyping up this guy a lot, and if they can utilize him and they do like him more than we kind of think, I like the opportunity there. So I'd be willing to take a stab on the upside of Bucky.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I really liked Bucky coming out. I think he has really good tape, and I think he fits really well with what they want to do,
Sure.
or at the very least like what they did last year.
Right. Yep. I'm with you. All right. Who are you taking here?
I'm gonna go Bo Nix. I think he's a really good quarterback. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the trigger here and get Bo Nix. I've been a little quarterback happy, and I feel Bo Nix can really. I think he's the 4th best quarterback in this draft. Personally.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
I like him more than McCarthy. I get, McCarthy has a better situation, but I think Bo Nix can really shape himself into a good quarterback, and
especially with Peyton, man.
Yeah. So in, kind of where you're picking, again, like you're picking dart throws at this point, and I think he could have fantasy relevant weeks with rushing upside, and and just be a solid bye week starter if you need.
Fair enough. All right, now I'm going to take. This is where it really starts to feel bad, especially on one quarterback. I'm going to take. So I'm split between Marshawn Lloyd. I don't like him as much. I'd rather take Bucky Irvin over him. But Braylon Allen, he's dead to me, unfortunately. Will Shipley, Kamani Vidal, Isaac Guerrero. Not really interested in any of those guys. Luke McCaffrey's here. I'm not taking Michael Penix in a 1 quarterback. No chance. Javon Baker is the other one that I'm kind of looking at here. I already took Polk, but I'll take Marshawn Lloyd again. I just think that he's kind of the last of the running backs that's even interesting to me before a pretty big tier break. He could be the number 2. Again, I still like Josh Jacobs a lot, so don't hear what I'm not saying. But I will take the handcuff to him here in the 3rd round, where if he becomes nothing, it's not a big investment, so I don't really care that.
Yeah, and I agree. I really like that pick. I think that's really solid. And at this point, you're just taking dart throws and taking chances on guys. And
yep.
I think after Irving, I think that's a very, because there is a pretty big drop off in guys.
All right,
well, in running backs at least. So
yep. Who are you taking at 3-6 here?
I'm taking Jalen McMillan.
Jalen McMillan. All right.
I've already talked about him. I really like him. I think he's good. I would have been happy with him at 3-2, and
Yep.
I mean he's probably reaching a little bit, but
he had day 2 draft capital, so it's like he's the last guy here, I think, on the entire list that had day 2 draft capital. I think Ray Davis is the only one that's left, but Ray Davis, he's 30 years old already at running back, so
basically,
I really don't want to invest in that highly in my rookie drafts. But you've got quite a few tight ends, but none of them that I really want to buy in here as well. So I get it. All right, we're through 2.5 rounds here. We're kind of to the point where it kind of feels bad. So let's just rapid fire. We'll kind of just name our players and we'll kind of explain them all at the end. So here at 3-7, I'm going to take Luke McCaffrey. I think that the upside is potentially there. So let's just go quickly. Who you can take 3-8, and then we'll kind of talk about these last 6.
I'm going to take Javon Baker.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. Here at 3-9, I would take, this is where I would take Devontae Walker with Baltimore. Who are you taking at 3-10?
He was going to be my pick, but
nice.
I'm going to take Emi Vidal.
Kamani Vidal.
Yes.
And I'm going to take another running back. I'm going to take Tyrone Tracy here. And then your last pick here.
Last pick. Let's see. Let's look at anybody I like. What the heck? Let's take Malik Washington. Track star, baby.
Your mind.
Track star, baby.
All right,
so man. Yep.
So let's talk through these a little bit really quickly. So Luke McCaffrey again. I like the upside there with Jaden Daniels. I do think that he's young. Jahan Dotson is not proven anymore. So
yep, agreed.
There is an opportunity, and McCaffrey, it's hard to bypass the name value here. He probably has pretty good hands.
He has a very good family tree, which that does help in the NFL.
Yes.
It's a brand new regime coming in.
Yep.
Like they want their guys. And Scary Terry's getting older.
Oh, for sure. And then Christian can help him learn how to work his hands. So the prestige and the lineage here is definitely there. So Javon Baker, obviously, good potential upside.
Yeah. He has good potential upside. Could be the wide receiver 1. He was drafted a little bit later than a lot of people expected. So,
right.
I've been drafting a lot of those guys, I guess. But
sure.
He's pretty talented, but it's gonna be interesting what happens in New England. So.
Devontae Walker, I like the potential. He's a deep threat for Baltimore. And again, it's just there's nobody left here, so might as well give me a dart throw. If Bateman ever injures his foot again, he's gone forever. So give me Devontae Walker that he could potentially take that role.
Yep. And then I took Vidal at 3-10 because he could emerge as the running back 1 in a Chargers in a Greg Roman offense.
I know.
But I mean, unfortunately, that room is it is the murkiest waters I've ever seen. Yeah. And it's gonna be interesting. I really hope J.K. Dobbins emerges, but in my opinion, that's just me. But I'm gonna take a dart throw at Vidal here.
Right, and then I took Tyrone Tracy because you look at the New York Giants depth chart. They have Devin Singletary, they have Eric Gray, and that's pretty much it ahead of him. So there is a path where Tyrone Tracy could be a starting running back in 2024, and you're like, oh, that's crazy. But I mean, one Devin Singletary injury, I don't think we can trust Eric Hall for anything. So at that point, it's a competition, and I have no idea who wins that competition. So yeah, or Eric Gray, not Eric Hall, but Eric Gray versus Tyrone Tracy. Who knows? So just let me take a stab at Tyrone Tracy.
And then I took Malik Washington because he's fast. No, but in all honesty, he's the wide receiver 3. If one of those guys goes down with an injury, which I think Jalen Waddle went down for a couple games. I think Tyreek had a couple games where he was out last year. So I'm taking a dart throw at a fun offense. Here we go.
Sure. No, it definitely could be worse, but it is pretty crazy even on one quarterback where we're making it to halfway through the 3rd round before it really starts to drop off. So like I said, I love this year's draft class. It scares me a ton because there's so many question marks, but in 3 years' time, if you told me all of these guys hit, I would not be shocked. Like, the talent is insane in this draft class.
There.
So
it's there.
Yeah, you love to see it. You definitely love to see it. So, any last thoughts on the rookie mock or?
I sure hope people can roast me with my Jermaine Burton pick. So
Jermaine Burton. Yeah. So that said, please leave a comment down below. Let Dale
Please
know
do.
whether you hated his draft picks or if you
I'd love to
agreed
hear
with
it.
them.
Love to hear it.
I agree with Jermaine Burton. He's good.
Yeah.
But, leave a comment down below. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video. We appreciate you guys so much. We're going to be putting out more content. I'll think of a solo video for later this week. I'm going to be going on vacation this weekend, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks from a personal side, but we'll make sure we keep the content flowing. So if you have any thoughts on what you'd like to hear us talk about, leave a comment down below for that as well, or hit us up on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale, or at FF After Dark. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, have a good night.
And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?